Great.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this very special event at the European Parliament. This is on the occasion of one of the meetings of one huge European project named PANCAID. So this event today is also in conjunction with PCE, our patient organization for pancreatic cancer in Europe, as well as United European Gastroenterology, which is co-sponsoring this meeting, of which I happen to be the president. And I very much welcome today the member of the parliament, Nicolás González Casares, to the right of me, and then also Etienne Abela, the Minister of Health and Aging from Malta, which actually happens to be our 50th national member of UEG, becoming last year. And then I'm also very happy to have with us the coordinator from the Commission, Ioannis Vouldis, who is also here with us on the panel, and obviously the coordinator of our PANCAID project and another project which we are running, Klaus Pantel from Hamburg, Germany. Before I give the word to the welcome speech of our esteemed members from Brussels here, I would like to point out what we like to accomplish today. Number one, to point out the importance of pancreatic cancer on the European level. Number two, to present to you the accomplishments of our PANCAID project. And then thirdly, more generally speaking, to point out some of the administrative challenges, not to say burdens, we're encountering with these large consortia, these collaborative projects we are running. And this is really something which in the future will really hinder research in Europe, and we're getting behind other areas in the world. Having said this, I hand over to the welcome messages first of the member of the European Parliament, Nicolás González Casares. Please.
Thank you everyone, and thank you for this invitation to host this very important event. Good afternoon to everyone, and I would like to thank the Pancreatic Cancer Association for organizing the event, and to everyone present here for your support this crucial initiative. Today we are brought together by an urgent and shared challenge: pancreatic cancer, a disease that not only threatens the lives of those who suffer from it, but also profoundly impacts their quality of life, emotional stability, and that of their families. We are facing a challenge that demands not only scientific and technological advancements, but also a comprehensive and human approach from the public sector, which must serve as the cornerstone for ensuring equitable and accessible care for all citizens. To successfully combat pancreatic cancer, we need to prioritize accessible and up-to-date information. I think that early detection is one of the most crucial keys in this fight, but to achieve it, we must build systems that provide accurate and comprehensible data of an incidence, risk factors, and diagnostic strategies. The lack of access to precise information can no longer remain a barrier to saving lives. This must go hand in hand with a coordinated European effort to design and implement effective screening and early detection programs. In this regard, I urge all member states to work together on strategies aimed at identifying and protecting at-risk populations, such as those with a family history, recent onset diabetes, or chronic pancreatitis. Sharing resources, technology, of course, knowledge, is essential to ensure that no citizen is left unprotected against this threat. However, our response, I have to speak as a nurse also, our response cannot be limited to the medical diagnosis and treatment. Pancreatic cancer affects not only the body, but also the mind and the families. A diagnosis of these magnitudes generates fear, uncertainty, anxiety, and, in many cases, depression. As such, a diagnosis is closely sometimes associated with an imminent death sentence. For this reason, the psychological impact cannot be considered secondary consequences. It is an integral part of the disease and must be addressed within the public health care system, include psychological and emotional support programs that accompany patients from diagnosis and through all stages of their treatment. So, psychological care must be considered an essential component of healthcare, not an optional complement, moreover, in this disease. In addition, we must acknowledge that caregivers and families of patients also bear a significant emotional burden. Therefore, public healthcare must guarantee comprehensive support that encompasses both the patient and their surroundings, providing not only psychological support but also social guidance and resources to help them cope with the overall impact of the disease. Of course, all of this must be accompanied, totally accompanied by decisive investment in research. We cannot make progress without equipping the public sector with the knowledge necessary to develop more effective detection methods and innovative therapies that increase survival rates. A science, always a science, please. Most of you are scientists or working in science. Please, it's time to believe in science. Now there is a public speech denying science. We have to believe in the science. We need a science to defeat also pancreatic cancer. So the science must be driving force behind this effort, but the public sector must ensure that its benefits reach everyone in equality, like the Beating Cancer report show us. It's time also to fight against inequalities also in pancreatic cancer. Thank you too much.
Thank you very much. We will gladly pick up some of your messages during the discussion then. I would then now call upon Etienne Abela, the Minister of Health and Aging from Malta. Please.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the very kind invitation. I'm very honored to be here, to be addressing you after a good few years of being a member of PCE. Usually one would say, what good is a pancreatic surgeon as minister? Well, you know, in such occasions, I feel very privileged to be here associating myself with efforts to improve research, but more importantly, to improve the outcome of patients suffering from pancreatic cancer. So indeed, as my predecessor has said, it is very important in a disease like pancreatic cancer, which usually is associated with a very good prognosis. It is very important not to give up on the research effort. I'm a surgeon. Now, whether I can tell you whether you do an open operation, whether you do a laparoscopic operation, or even a robotic operation, it is the same operation, and it's been done the same way for many, many years. Should we give up on operating people with pancreatic surgery? With pancreatic cancer, of course not, but definitely, and I'm sure you will all agree here, is that the treatment, the other forms of treatment that surround the surgical treatment are where we can improve. Now, I am sure that the coming together of academia, the coming together of patient advocates, the coming together of oncologists, and so on and so forth, is extremely important. But it is not enough. Money is very important too. And pumping money at a problem, we know it works. Take breast cancer. Over the years, breast cancer has been perceived as a very important disease in all of our societies, and lots of money was pumped into breast cancer research. I can tell you, when people are sitting for their final examinations in surgery, when it comes to answering about breast cancer treatment, there's this and this and this. There's a whole list of studies that deal with this stage of the disease and that, and then this and that, several computations of breast cancer surgery, where there are available studies and specific treatment for that particular stage. So what am I saying here? If a lot of money was pumped into breast cancer treatment, breast cancer research, and that's the way it should be, we should do the same with other tumors. And I think pancreatic cancer, being the 12th leading cancer worldwide, deserves more attention. I pledge as a politician, I pledge as a European member state minister that, we will do our very best to, first of all, try to prevent the disease happening. So we have to attack risk factors, especially in those populations that are at risk. But we have to improve diagnostics. In Malta, we are just about to embark on screening by MRI and MRCP screening to try and identify it. It is a part of a research study to try and identify the pre-malignant stage, the IPMN stage. So we are going to embark on that, and then we will present our findings. I need not tell you, the earlier we find pancreatic cancer, the better the prognosis. But of course, the efforts in neoadjuvant and adjuvant treatment needs to be bolstered as well. And I'm sure that's why you're all here today. So I wish you a very fruitful discussion. I wish you fruitful deliberations. And I look forward to join you in these discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We also will come back to some of your points, more funding and the comparison with breast cancer. I think it's very well taken. It's now my pleasure to call upon the coordinator of our PANCAID project, Klaus Pantel, who is running the show, so to say, for all of us here. And he will provide you a little bit insight why we are doing what we are doing, on maybe what we already have accomplished so far. So please, Klaus.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matthias. It's really a pleasure to speak here today and see so much interest and also support, of course, the engagement of the patient advocacy groups, which I think is super important, not only in EU projects, but in all cancer research projects. So what is our main objective? I think it's the early detection of pancreatic cancer using a blood test, and we call it liquid biopsy, and probably also detect already the precancerous lesion of pancreatic cancer, because as pointed out, maybe we have to detect this aggressive tumor as early as possible and then take it out by surgery. Why did we focus on pancreatic cancer? Of course, I don't have to say that. Here it's the most lethal cancer in Europe. Also, the incidence is increasing. So in 2030, it's expected to be the second cause of cancer-related deaths. So we really need to do something. And early detection has the promise to really reduce the mortality significantly. So I think that what is a liquid biopsy, for those who are not familiar with this term, it's really a new diagnostic avenue. I introduced this term together with Cristina from Montpellier more than 10 years ago, and Cristina is also part of the PANCAID consortium here. And what we do is we take a blood sample, and out of this blood sample we can analyze many, many different biomarkers, tumor cells, tumor cell products, and putting all this information together could give us a chance to detect pancreatic cancer earlier. So it's really my pleasure to coordinate this together with Matthias, who is a friend and a colleague for many years and involved in the pancreatic cancer field for decades. And the project has a duration of 5 years. It's substantially supported by the Horizon project. And I think you also hear Ioannis Vouldis speaking about that. We are 8 countries, 18 institutions, and I think we are focused on this goal to detect this aggressive tumor earlier. The pancreatic cancer team actually included experts in translational research on pancreatic cancer, from liquid biopsy, data handling, computational data analysis, also health economy experts, which I think is very important, and patient advocacy group. And I think we are very, very happy here to have PCE here as a very active partner in this consortium. So the structure is shown here. We have a general assembly that takes place once a year. We have a steering committee, which are the work package leaders. We have 7 work packages, which actually are doing the work. We have an impact board looking at any kind of intellectual property that comes out of it. We have a data safety and monitoring board. And what is most important, we have an excellent scientific and ethical advisory board. And many of those members are here today, and that's really fantastic. Most of all, I think what we really have here as an enormous asset in PANCAID is a biobank consisting of blood samples that were collected over the last 10 and more years from patients with early stage pancreatic cancer and precancer lesions of pancreatic cancer. Then we have actually experts from all different types of liquid biopsy biomarkers, tumor cells, host cells, metabolomics, extracellular vesicles, circulating tumor DNA. And then we put all this information together, and we have a super team also here on data analysis experts from Núria, Malats, and her colleagues that probably will find a classifier of information that can identify pancreatic cancer at its early stages. And very important, we have a health economy group here by Hans-Helmut Königs's group. We have an ethics work package, which I think is very important, and dissemination and management work package. And we are very wonderfully supported by Concentrates here for the project management, Sarah and her team. So what are the clinical studies? We are, of course, conducting clinical studies. We first did a methodological studies comparing different liquid biopsy blood methods. Then we have different risk groups. You see here the precancerous IPMN lesions. We have also then, of course, lesions where the tumor is early, T1 or T2 tumors. And we really want to see what happens to people who have a higher risk to develop pancreatic cancer. So these are our clinical groups that we want to analyze. And we will do that retrospectively on the biobank samples, and then also have a prospective trial where we put all this information together. What is the impact and benefit? Of course, we hope to get some breakthroughs scientifically on the biology of pancreatic cancer development. We want, of course, to develop new cancer screening blood tests, which would, of course, be very helpful, particularly for patients who have a higher risk to develop pancreatic cancer, to screen them over time and tell them early enough what to do. Then, of course, the medical field has a high, benefit from early detection, improved treatment. Society, of course, we hope to get a reduced mortality and a better life quality. And we also have SMEs here that contribute to PANCAID. So there is also an economy view. The key innovations and expected outcomes. I mean, we hope to get a successful, very robust blood test for early detection of pancreatic cancer. And we have really experts here from all the different fields together. This test, of course, should be novel. We have to define the target population. Do we just want to look at patients at risk, or individuals at risk, or what do we want to do a broad screening? And for that, the socioeconomic evaluation is very important. And of course, we will create a unique database and biobank that will be available even beyond the PANCAID project. Of course, it's very important to disseminate and communicate our activities. I think we will do that, of course, through patenting novel blood tests. But also we go already now to the scientific, but also to the public community to disseminate the knowledge. We want to foster the communication between citizens and patients. And I mean, this is, of course, a wonderful event today. and of course includes the communication towards the policy makers. We are not alone in Europe, which is fantastic. We have a cluster of groups that work on early detection of other types of cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer, etc. And we meet with these clusters. And that's thanks to the EU group here, who has suggested that the projects that are funded are not being in a silo, but actually meet together, have activities together, and also develop synergies together. So that's super important to have this prevention and early detection cluster. And of course, we also have the links to our other EU projects. For example, I'm also coordinating at present the IHI project Guide MRD, which is aimed to detect the relapse of cancer earlier. So for further information, we have developed a website, and we also try, of course, to be present on the social media. And if you want to know more about the project, the website, I think is a wonderful way to get some more information. And we also organize international meetings with other colleagues beyond PANCAID. Many of those are going on this year. One of the key liquid biopsy meetings will be organized by Paul Hoffman, Katrina Lixpan-Navier, and me in Nice this year in May. So this is a meeting where about 500 to 600 researchers from all over the world come together. And I think we also have, through Sut here, who is part of our advisory board, a wonderful link to the early detection activity in the USA. So this bridge is already built, and I think it's fantastic that we work all together on this important goal of detecting pancreatic cancer earlier and reducing the mortality. It's a team. So for those who sit in the first row, you have to turn around, but I think most of those people are here. So this is a wonderful team, and thank you really to all of you for your wonderful support of PANCAID.
Thank you, Klaus. I must say, all the European projects I have been running, this is very special, having you as the father, together with the mother of liquid biopsy here, and your huge experience in liquid biopsy. It was even fun to put together the application, I remember. Anyway, now we are coming to the commission, and it's really my pleasure to call upon our UE officer, as I may call you, Ioannis Vouldis, who is guiding us through the jungle of doing this project. Please, Ioannis.
Thank you so much, Matthias. Good afternoon to all participants from my side too. It's really, I feel privileged to join you and work hand by hand with the PANCAID Consortium. I'm here to represent the European Commission Services and HaDEA. And as Matthias said, I'm Ioannis Vouldis, Program Manager and Cancer Mission Representative. And maybe we can move to the next slide. And for a few minutes, I will take your time to walk you through in three main components from a helicopter point of view to remind and update about HaDEA, because it's the newborn in the European Union institutions ecosystem, the Horizon Europe and Health Research, and of course the Cancer Mission and Project Clusters. So who we are? We are the Health and Digital Executive Agency that we have been trusted with EU taxpayers' money to fund innovative research in health, and not only. HaDEA's vision is to boost Europe by building, after a COVID-19 pandemic, from Earth to space, a healthy society, a digital economy, and a competitive industry. As our name declares, you can see that the health and digital components come under the same roof. And what we do in more detail, here you can see it's the health, the food safety, space, industry, and digital programs trusted with us. And as our previous speaker mentioned, please, the budget, in terms of budget, it's a total of 20 billion euro of budget trusted to our services. And I may draw your attention to the orange and yellow parts of the pie that they reflect the Europe's Beating Cancer plan. and the Cancer Mission flagship initiatives, a political momentum, as I cite other speakers in the EU, against the fight, supporting the fight against cancer. And we may move on, please. And this slide, I find it important in order to make it easier for our participants to understand how duties and how the ecosystem works. So we have departments of the state policy, and we welcome always the input from our scientists, what it comes next, what it comes in the future. And we are trusted to turn the policy into action. We have discussed with Klaus, implementation is key to deliver and what is foreseen as a vision. And so with my role, I'm very happy hand by hand in the entire implementation cycle to be part of the consortium. And we may continue, please, to outline our program. So when we focus now in our dedicated Horizon Europe program, it reflects a budget of almost 100 billion for the financial framework program period 21 to 27. The one, it's a lot of actions funded, but in the very center you can see health on the focus and thus priority of the EU to fund. And we might move next, please. And the key novelty that we have to deliver and implement, and we're in the middle, it's the concept of the research and innovation missions, that it has not been in the previous programs, but we have it now. And I can now, with the next slide, outline to you more what is the concept of the mission, that PANCAID is part of it. So mission has been conceived as a flagship initiative to improve the lives of more than 3 million of people by 2030. And how we do it, it's not that we focus on a particular cancer type, we focus in a comprehensive manner, either common types of cancer or rare types of cancer. This comes from a bottom-up approach and a need from the community. And we rather focus by going through prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and quality of life, thus covering the whole cancer pathway. And with that, you can see key data in the slide, and we may continue to give you here the latest update we have. It's where we stand in the cancer mission implementation. All our calls from 21 to 24, they have been ongoing, and with the 25 under preparation, you can see the temple. I'm sorry if the slide is quite busy, but you can check in more details. And of course, the call that PANCAID answered successfully. And with that, we may continue to close my helicopter view by mentioning also the novel way that we implement and we fund the research, that not projects working in silos, but rather in clusters, in cooperative teams, because together we can achieve for sure more than what each of us individually and each project individually. So in the common areas that Klaus has touched base on data management, citizen engagement, addressing inequalities in Europe, that it's a key priority for the EU. We expect to do differently and more than in the previous years. And with that, I would like, here you have the overview of all clusters to date, and cluster prevention and early detection screening, it's what PANCAID belongs. And like that next slide, please, I would like to thank you also for the attention and repeat that it's my privilege to be and work with you and support this enthusiastic consortium of scientists that, of course, we all rely on fighting the disease. Thank you.
Thank you, Ioannis, for this very nice overview. I must admit, when we were first receiving the proposal, we have to work in such a cluster. Klaus and I said, okay, what is this all about? But I have to say, this is really a very nice thing. And now we enjoy very much working in these clusters, I must say. That's a good move. Thank you very much. So now I think we are moving here. And this is really very important, the next part of our program, because You could always say, we are researchers, we like research money to do something. You can always, suggest that we have other reasons for doing what we are doing. But one has to realize when Alfredo and I funded Pancreatic Cancer Europe 20 years ago, I believe, something like that, there was actually a member of the parliament who kicked this off. And he was a banker, and he had a cancer case, pancreatic cancer, in his family. And then he tried to find biotech invest in pancreatic cancer. There was none. So he said, we must change that. So he funded together with us and industry, actually, this multi-stakeholder platform to change that. And a very important part of this multi-stakeholder platform, obviously, were the patients, okay? Because the patients, as you rightly pointed out, in breast cancer, they were driving the development and they were lobbying. And we are where breast cancer was 30 years ago with pancreatic cancer. And one of the initial pancreatic cancer advocates and survivors, obviously, was Ali Stunt, who will now tell her story together with Patrycja Rzadkowska from the European Colon board in Poland and Cristina Sandin from ACANPAN, Spain. All right, Ali, please.
Okay, my name's Ali Stunt. I'm one of the founding board members of Pancreatic Cancer Europe. But previously to that, I founded Pancreatic Cancer Action in 2010. And I'm also a very rare survivor of pancreatic cancer. Okay, so my route to diagnosis, so there are lots of transitions, sorry, you're going to be pressing the button for a bit. So I was initially in June 2006 diagnosed with new onset type 2 diabetes. This was not associated with any weight gain, and I had no family history of diabetes at all. And I was basically told to eat a healthy diet, which I was already doing. And the GP and I thought that it was a bit odd that I developed diabetes suddenly. And then about a year later, I started getting mid-upper back pain. And that back pain was where a lady's bra strap sits, so right in the middle, and that radiated right round to the front. I was told I had muscle strain, and I was told to take ibuprofen for that. And then I got pain on eating. I stopped eating, and I had change in bowel habit and was losing weight. I was actually then diagnosed with IBS and dyspepsia combined. So told to take Buscopan and Gaviscon, which are brand names for IBS treatment and indigestion problems. So I then felt really rubbish, and I said, well, I asked the GP, am I fit enough to go on holiday? She said, oh, yes, you're fine. And then I actually spent a week in a very expensive hotel room in Rome, which was a waste of money and my time, etc. And I've still not seen the Sistine Chapel. So then when I got back, I was in severe pain. I mean, anyone who has known pancreas pain, it is awful. I've given birth to 2 children, and this pancreas pain was far worse than being in labour. So I had an out-of-hours GP come to the house. He thought it might be pancreatitis, so he was closer than anybody else had been, and told to go back to the GP the next day. He gave me a really nice morphine injection, which helped. Then the GP discussed my pain on the phone to the surgical team at the A&E in my local hospital. They decided that my pain was not great enough for me to be admitted to hospital. So I was then prescribed cocotamol. So we're seeing this pattern. Analgesics are going up, pain's going up, nothing's touching it. And then I ended up taking myself to A&E, and they suspected gallstones, another common misdiagnosis for pancreas cancer. And the consultant basically said to me, yeah, fat, fair and 40, you fit the criteria for gallstones. And I went, but I'm not fat. He said, but you're fair and 40. So I was told I needed an ultrasound. We're on the NHS. There was no one working it in the hospital on the bank holiday, so I was sent home with tramadol. So then the next day I went back to the GP, and the GP requested an ultrasound scan. They said, this isn't urgent. On the NHS, it would take 4 to 6 weeks to have that ultrasound scan. So there was a long story where I was asked for a private referral. Then the system mucked up because the GP surgery sent the referral to the consultant's NHS secretary and all of that kind of stuff. So I had to wait more to get that private referral. Thank you, Anna. And then I had an appointment with the HPB consultant surgeon, and he admitted me on seeing me straight away. Didn't do any physical exam. He didn't need to. He knew I was in severe pain. And he actually gave me the most wonderful pain medication I think I've ever had in my life, Voltarol suppositories. Who knew? But then, a long story short, emergency US followed by rapidly followed by a CT scan revealed I had a 5.5 centimetre mass on my pancreas. Luckily, it was confined to the pancreas, and I had surgery planned for a week later. So I was fit and healthy, non-smoker, not overweight, no family history. And one key thing for anyone who is in primary care, I very rarely visited the GP for myself, took the kids, but not for myself. It was something that we teach at Pancreatic Cancer Action is in some of our GP educational modules, is to look at the rare attendee who's suddenly turning up not only once a week, but maybe twice or more frequently a week. So my situation is unusual statistically, but I had a distal pancreatectomy and splenectomy performed in September 2007. It was successful, but close to margins. So I had a stage 2B adenocarcinoma, and I had 1 lymph node affected. So my treatment was 6 cycles of gemcitabine and cisplatin adjuvant treatment. And then I had 5.5 weeks of chemoradiotherapy with the sensitizer was 5-FU. So I now have only the head of my pancreas left, and so what I'm left with is type 3C diabetes, so totally insulin dependent, and something that's really difficult to control because my little bit of pancreas that's there sometimes decides to kick out a bit of insulin when it feels like it, and then all my calculations with carbs and all of that kind of stuff versus insulin go out the window. I have bile malabsorption, but I don't need to take creon, so I don't need digestive enzymes. I do suffer with peripheral neuropathy because, especially in the wintertime, and my fingers get very cold. And I say early onset menopause. It wasn't just early onset, it was sudden onset menopause, which happened whilst I was undergoing treatment. And so that's another thing I had to deal with. And it's a subject that's not really talked about an awful lot. So I'm trying to raise the profile of that in the UK. So looking at pancreatic cancer in the EU, we can see the statistics here on the screen, and it's the incidence and mortality ratio. They're virtually identical, but what we do see across Europe are very different variations in incidence and mortality in terms of this is an incidence plot on a map, but you can see some Eastern European and some Scandinavian countries actually have a greater incidence than some other countries, and we need to understand why. In the UK, which I'm more familiar with, really, you can see that the 5-year survival rate is only 8%, 5th leading cause of cancer death currently, but like across the EU, that's going to go up the league table, not in the right direction. But only 10% of us are diagnosed in time are able to have potentially curative surgery. And we do know that if patients are diagnosed early, which is why PANCAID is so important, is that the survival rate, if you have surgery plus adjuvant therapy, then you are likely to survive. Survival rate is about 30% versus that 8%, which is far better. So going on from what was spoken about earlier in terms of the investment into breast cancer, can we go back? Thank you. This slide actually shows, it's a bit small, but you can see this is the trend in 5-year cancer survival in the UK from 1971 to 2020. So what we see is already relatively high 5-year survival for melanoma, which is right at the top. The next one down is breast cancer, and then you've got prostate cancer. Those are the sort of three biggies, as it were. And those are the ones that have had an awful lot of investment. Down the bottom, unfortunately, the very last little line on the graph, you can see for decades there been very, very little movement, but there has been some improvement, but you can see that it's very, very slow. And we need this to change. And I think before we get a wonder drug, which will take years of development, we need to do what we can using today's technology in order to get people diagnosed sooner so that they do have that chance of potentially curative surgery. And you can see that some countries do better with survival than others. This is an international cancer benchmarking partnership. And you can see right at the top there is Australia. So these are developed nations. So Australia is doing far better. And down at the bottom, we in the UK are unfortunately languishing alongside New Zealand in terms of being not very good. So 1 year survival rates can be a proxy for, if they're low, for later stage disease at diagnosis. So we're seeing that in Australia, they have got their staging is a lot earlier than in the UK. So they've got double the 1 year survival rate. So we need to be better. We need more investment in research at EU level. We have lagged behind other cancers, and that's borne out not just by the survival stats, but by looking at the percentage of funding for pancreatic cancer. And you know, it's great that PANCAID and other projects are getting some of this EU funding, but it's not enough, and it's certainly not commensurate with other cancers. We need more public awareness. PCE is doing a really great job in doing that. We need primary care educational programs. We need to teach GPs about what to look out for in terms of symptoms like new onset diabetes not associated with weight gain. And also my bugbear, Matthias, you'll know because I mentioned this when I was speaking in Stockholm in November. I bang on about it, but the nihilism. There are some clinicians that write off patients, and the public think that it's a death sentence and that nothing can be done. And this is why I think historically we've struggled to get the funding that we need. And what we don't want to do is to take away hope. So this is a lady who's really pleased her dad's still with us, a patient in the UK. And, you know, we've got to give that hope to other patients who might be newly diagnosed with this disease. I think that's it from me. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Ali. The Pancreatic Cancer Action you funded has been a role model for us in Europe, and we're looking beyond the European Union for that matter here, really. And also the figures you provided, for instance, pancreatic cancer, at least in the UK, only received 2% of the entire funding. I remember those figures. Absolutely you provided true. Once, which is one of the things which is the same, I believe, in all of Europe or the European Union for that matter. And we have to change that and work on that. Thank you very much. All right. The next then on my list is Patrycja Rzadkowska from European Poland. Please.
Yeah, that was pretty perfect. Pretty perfect.
I'm a dyslexic, just to let you know.
And this surname is pretty, it's super even hard for people in Poland to say out. So that was perfect. Unfortunately, I don't have slides, so you would have to bear with me talking for a few minutes. So thank you for having me here. My name is Patrycja Rzadkowska, and I'm a patient advocate and patient expert from Poland. I work primarily as a business process manager in the international company, and from my background, I am also a psychologist and psycho-oncologist. And all the advocacy work I do happens after hours and is purely voluntary. And I am also a pancreatic cancer survivor now for 7.5 years. I am now 32 years old, and I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer just a few weeks before my 25th birthday, a little bit more than those 7 years. which for this particular cancer is quite unusual. And I was just invited here to share some of my experience with you, especially that my cancer journey is the reason I am involved in advocacy all those years later. So for majority of my life, I struggled with obesity and losing some weight. We can see that I still haven't succeeded. And diets and exercises were actually the only professional advice I got and weren't particularly helpful. No doctor ever referred me to do any tests beside the pediatrician some 25 years ago. So in early summer 2017, I decided that it was high time to demand check-in if everything was medically okay with me. My primary GP didn't want to prescribe me even basic blood tests. He didn't see a point. So determined as I was, and I still am, I just searched around and found myself another GP who took me and my concerns seriously. And in the meantime, I also suffered from some minor indigestion. So my newly found GP prescribed me some advanced blood tests, which of course turned out to be perfect, but also referred me to the ultrasound of abdomen. And as much as it is not a perfect diagnostic tool in pancreatic cancer, actually it's no diagnostic tool at all, it was enough in my case because the results showed that there was a 17 centimeter mass in my abdomen. And I remember, like, still vividly, that it was very sunny Wednesday, 17th of July, 2017, so a lot of 7 and 17, I have no idea why. I just finished studies and was about to write my master thesis, and instead I got immediate referral to CT scan. And of course, to have it done super fast, I had to pay it out of my own pocket, or I would have to be waiting for another 4 or 5 months to have it done on the national health system in Poland. And please wait, you have to wait, the next possible date is somewhere in the future. I know I'm not the only one who's heard those words, and knowing all the statistics, unfortunately, it scares to death, especially in case of pancreatic cancer. We all know that waiting is the worst thing that could be done in this case. But CT confirmed there in fact was 17 centimeter tumor in body and tail of pancreas, and that was the first time I have ever heard the term pancreatic cancer directed to me. To say that my diagnosis was a surprise is understatement, and I kind of still divide my life into before and after cancer and this very weird meantime period. I did not understand the seriousness of the situation. I was 24, about a month and a half before my 24th birthday. It was summer after finishing my studies. All I had to do was to write my master thesis and get that degree. I just graduated psychology and had my whole life planned. The only thing I knew about pancreatic cancer was that a few famous people died from it and not much more. Actually, the reaction of my family was something that told me that this is serious, like life-threatening serious situation, and actually being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer certainly was not on my bingo card that year, but there I was, lost, scared, and confused. So once the primal shock passed and I started looking for best possible chances for me, because of course I Googled like majority of patients do, I was surprised how little focus was on pancreatic cancer, looking on the fact that mortality is so high, survivorship rate is very low, and the age of patients diagnosed is actually decreasing. And just like Ali said a few minutes ago, only 8% of patients live more than 5 years since diagnosis. And I remember when I first read that sentence, it was sunny Saturday in July 2017. And with the tumor confirmed, the only thing I could do was waiting for admitting to the hospital, waiting for more advanced diagnostic process like laparoscopy, biopsy, histopathology, and waiting for decision what will be the next steps. And because this is the reality of cancer patients, a lot of uncertainty in waiting and not being trusted and taken seriously, the size of my tumor, 17 centimeters, indicated that it may have been growing for quite some time already, but all symptoms I had been reporting to my first GP was treated like young girl's antics, with only recommendation being losing weight or seeing psychiatrists because it might have been psychosomatic. But it wasn't. And as much as obesity is a risk factor for pancreatic cancer, it is not an explanation for everything. So with CT results, the madness started. My parents set up a command central at home, and I applied for a sick leave at my university, and we started looking for the best possibilities. Some further consultations with few surgeons told us that the surgery should be possible, and that's something I should go for. So my mom found the best surgeon possible, we thought, at that time in Poland, in the city that was about 200 kilometers from my hometown, but that didn't scare us because there were no limits. And she actually managed to get an appointment with him like for the next day or so. Of course, a private visit, not on the national health system, because that would take probably like 8 additional months. And at first, after seeing CT results, I was stigmatized as a classic example of a student who just parties and consumes a lot of alcohol, because like actually the professor didn't believe the CT results and told us that we only the crazy person with the surgery, but promised to consult my kid's father and come back as soon as possible. And it was the next morning when I received a phone call and heard him saying that we must do surgery as soon as possible because it's serious, and the closest possible day was half of September. And that was the beginning of August. So another month and a half waiting. And in the meantime, I was admitted to Regional Cancer Center for additional tests and for diagnostic laparoscopy. And then I was just waiting and waiting for mid of September. In the meantime, celebrating my 25th birthday with family and closest friends. And a week after, I was admitted to hospital 200 kilometers from my hometown to have a surgery. And was I scared? Like to death. Of staying in a hospital, of surgery, of narcosis, and of the unknown. Surgery itself was long and tough, but successful because the whole tumor was extracted. And I actually don't remember those days after the surgery because I know I was on morphine to stop the pain, which was the best week of my life. And I was sleeping a lot, and my parents were with me, and my friends and family came to visit. And due to my young age at that time, doctors wanted to save as much as pancreas as possible. And now I have only head of an organ, which thankfully is still working. So there is no diabetes yet. But there were, of course, some side effects like risk of sepsis and an obstructed pancreatic duct. And because of the latter, I couldn't eat and had to stay in the hospital for an additional 6 weeks. And I had to have some small additional procedure to place the stent there in order to fix the situation because it couldn't heal itself. And this is something I still live with. Like stent in pancreatic duct has to be changed every few months. And after the initial 2.5 years, doctors decided to take it out because it looked like everything was okay. But unfortunately, in the next 2 years, I've had acute pancreatitis about 7 times and ended up in hospitals with danger to life. So 2 years ago, stent was placed back in my pancreatic duct, and now every 6 months I have it changed and undergo medical procedure as I was told no permanent solution is available yet. And it was still in 2017 actually, because almost 1 year after my surgery in summer 2018, I got my master's in psychology and decided to pursue after graduation in psycho-oncology because with the initial plan to work with cancer patients. Of course, plans change as they always do. I ended up in the national corporation, but that was a start to my work as a patient advocate, and which started with being involved with some Facebook self-help patients group to trying to support others and got some advices. And there I was spotted by the small charity Europa Poland, and we've been working together ever since in Poland. But that also allowed me to working with multiple international organizations, with PCE being the primary one and the closest to my heart actually. And the organizer of today's meeting, in which we are also talking about the importance of early detection among other stuff, because early detection is the key to giving patients even a chance to survive. Unfortunately, pancreatic cancer gives symptoms when it's in a late stage, most of the time untreatable, but patients report symptoms much sooner, and pancreatic cancer cannot be treated as the last possible diagnostic options. The average time from initial symptoms to diagnosis is 100 days. And those are 3 months. For cancer with such high mortality and being so advanced in the moment of symptoms, those 100-day diagnostic process can literally be life or death for many patients. Pancreatic cancer is predicted to be the deadliest cancer in upcoming years, and we have actually no time to waste, and we have to come together and not let that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrycja. And again, I mean, this is for us as researchers to listen to, but particularly to the politicians in the room. All right. The third then is Cristina Sandin from ACANPAN, Spain. Please, Cristina.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me. And yes, my name is Cristina Sandin, and I'm not a pancreatic cancer survivor. I stand here today as the president of the Pancreatic Cancer Association in Spain, are all I have held for the last 9 years. This position is both an honor and a legacy, based on me by two incredible women, Carmen and Olga. Our association's founders and pancreatic cancer patients who are sadly no longer with us. Today, I'm here not just as a leader of an organization, but as a voice of a community of patients, families, and advocates who share a common hope to change the devastating course of pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest cancers with survival rates that starkly remind us the urgency to act. Our mission is clear: to give patients a clear chance of survival through early detection, made possible by developing effective screening methods and advancing new treatment pathways. Pancreatic cancer is often referred to as a silent killer. Its symptoms tend to appear late, and by the time it is diagnosed, the disease is usually advanced. Over 90% of patients diagnosed at late stages have survival rate of less than 1 year. Yet, research shows us that early detection can dramatically improve outcomes, offering hope where there was none before. However, by the time the first symptoms appear, it is often already too late. This is why we must develop methods that enable diagnosis even before symptoms arise. Tumors with higher survival rates, such as breast and colon cancers, benefit from established screening methods that allow detection at very early stages, often before symptoms noticeable. Despite advances in science, pancreatic cancer lacks these tools. Diagnosis remains a matter of chance, relying on vague symptoms, often confused with other conditions. The consequences are devastating. Late detection eliminates the possibility of timely, life-saving treatments. Developing reliable screening methods is not just necessary, it's urgent. Let me share two stories that illustrate this urgency. Our association was founded by two remarkable pancreatic cancer patients. Carmen, my childhood friend, Uncle Tunchi for my daughter, and Olga, another dear friend and co-worker. Carmen's story was heartbreaking. She spent more than 6 months visiting specialists, experiencing symptoms that were repeatedly misdiagnosed. By the time her pancreatic cancer was detected through a gynecological checkup, almost by accident, it was already stage 4. She never had a chance. Olga's story was different. One day, her eyes turned yellow, a clear, unmistakable symptom of jaundice. Her cancer was detected early enough for surgery to be an option, and for a brief moment, there was a hope. However, even with this early detection, Olga did not survive. These two intertwined stories, which led to the foundation of our association, highlight a painful truth. Early detection, even before the first symptoms, cannot remain a matter of luck. The only real hope for survival in pancreatic cancer lies in identifying it at earliest stages. Finding an effective screening method is essential to ensure that survival is no longer left to chance. The absence of these tools today makes survival a matter of luck. Our goal is to change that. As patient advocate, I have witnessed how early detection can transform despair into hope. Advocacy plays a crucial role in raising awareness among patients, healthcare providers, policymakers, and society about the urgent need of early detection. Supporting research initiatives like PANCAID which aim to develop effective screening protocols and strengthening collaborations between nations, researchers, and institutions to drive innovation in this field. Advocacy isn't just about policies. It's about giving patients a voice and ensuring they are at the heart of decision-making processes. Today, I urge our European leaders to act decisively. Increase funding for research into pancreatic cancer screening methods. Support initiatives that foster collaboration across Europe to tackle this shared challenge. And dedicate resources to accelerate the development of life-saving diagnostic tools. Together, we can shift the focus from late-stage diagnosis to prevention and early intervention. By doing so, we honor the life of those who we have lost and offer hope to future generations. Thank you for this opportunity to share this urgent message. Pancreatic cancer is a formidable opponent, but with collective action and investment in research, we can change its narrative. Let us commit to making the development of screening methods a priority so that no patient survival depends on mere luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristina. I once in an editorial coined pancreatic cancer a medical emergency, and I think all three patient histories you are referring here kind of underscore that, and I think was a very nice translation now, Cristina, from your story to the next part of our day or afternoon here today, the roundtable. Klaus, early detection of pancreatic cancer.
Yes, I'm sitting now on the small table, so I hope you can still understand me with the microphone. It's really a pleasure to have this round. No, we cannot move it. That we have this roundtable together here, and I think the idea is really to see what kind of synergies we can develop, what kind of joint efforts to really fight this devastating disease. And I guess we all agreed that early detection is the key, but I guess we have, again, different views how we can really combine our efforts and our strengths. So I think that we have here a wonderful panel, and let me start with Anna, really, from DICE in Belgium. So your view, how can we join efforts, what kind of efforts can be joined, and what do we need for that?
Okay, thank you, Klaus. I'm very glad to be here today and for this invitation. We work together also in a GuideMRD project. So I'm a former, if I can say that, I'm a former scientist by background, and I joined Digestive Cancers Europe 2 years ago. I'm an example of a person that can see on the ground the outcomes from European projects. I think we should, of course, speak up about pancreatic cancer because the numbers, if we compare the numbers with the other digestive cancers or with other cancers, we can see that the funding is minimal. We can count the projects, the European projects that are ongoing now, but we know that in this table we have representatives of at least 2 outstanding European projects on liquid biopsy. And I think other thing that we need to highlight is the involvement, the engagement of patients on these projects, and how they can help researchers, scientists, clinicians on their work or on their daily work, because first of all, we need that the scientific information be translated in a lay language. So communication and dissemination is key. I know that now most of the proposals, the scientific proposals during the evaluation process in the European Commission, the value that they give to dissemination and communication, it's great, because if we think 20 years ago when I started my PhD, unfortunately at that time patients were just numbers or source of cells. Now patients have a voice, and I can see that path. So the changing, this great changing in this area. So I think what we should do to improve early detection, to improve the diagnosis, to improve the treatments, is to speak up about pancreatic cancer and to educate better the citizens, because we need to transform pancreatic cancer in a cancer similar, of course, we cannot compare, but like breast cancer. We need to bring pancreatic cancer to the news and to speak about using the languages that citizens are used to, like social media and short videos. So we need to pass the information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, really. I think we heard also today, that some very precious time was really lost, by going patients to the general practitioners, not thinking about this possibility. So I think we fully agree with you that we should also think how we can really disseminate the knowledge, the awareness, and try to avoid this precious time to be lost, Absolutely. So from the researcher's point of view, Patrick, Michl, would you like to make some comments? What are your post-Christmas wishes for joint efforts?
Well, there would be many, of course, post-Christmas wishes, which kind of should be prioritized. I think awareness, we heard enough. That's really crucial. Awareness among our colleagues, GPs, specialists, and awareness about the politics, the urgent need for more funding to this neglected disease. And focusing a little bit more into research, actually, I think we have really a lot of tasks in front of us, PANCAID being one really impressive consortium which tackling this. I think first we have to better define persons at risk. I mean, nowadays, screening is not really effective, not very specific in the general population. Of course, the ultimate goal would be to change this, similar to other more common types of cancers. But the road for this, I think, is quite far. Now, I think we have to take symptoms serious, and we have to screen patients at risks. Cystic lesions, patients with family history, familial pancreatic cancer, genetic predispositions. And we have to define novel risk factors in addition to the usual suspects like obesity, smoking, alcohol, as we all know are bad. We are quite sure that by looking at broad pictures, patterns of risk factors rather than individual ones, we might be able to get more specific and get even more novel insight. And that involves clearly basic researchers, wet lab researchers, which develop novel tools for liquid biopsies, for example, such in PANCAID, but also epidemiologists looking at patient stories, looking at environmental factors, and big data scientists. That's my personal guess that we would not be able in a disease like this to particularly rely only on a given blood test. But I think the future will be a combination, a data integration of both testings and also information, both clinically and environmentally. And I think that is the vision which could make a difference, both for defined risk populations, but also for the general population.
Thank you very much. That's excellent. And I think one idea or one question that I would also have is really, can we explain this increasing incidence of pancreatic cancer? I mean, I'm just back from Australia. We can say almost worldwide. I mean, do you have any idea or any hypothesis that we could follow?
I think that's the big black box we are we are all faced with, that we don't know the answer to this question, and I think it's a Western world problem. I mean, that's quite clear. So there might be some environmental factors, but we're still far away from really precisely nailing them down.
Yeah. And there's also this scary increase of younger people getting colon cancer and also pancreatic cancer. I mean, we listened to the story from Patrycja, personally, which was very, touchy to me, to learn that also young people can be affected. And so, it must have to do something with the ingestion system. But nobody has a good idea, I guess. Yeah.
I guess so. As a gastroenterologist, I'm quite convinced that it's about the digestion system. I think we quite know about the colon cancer, rectal cancer, might be something about microbiome-induced, early onset obesity-induced things. But it's clear that it will be multifactorial.
Yeah.
And there won't be that only answer, I guess.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Maybe, Matthias, would you like to go on with the roundtable discussion?
You just on the side mentioned one term, neglected cancers, and that is one of the accomplishments the UEG was having with John F. Ryan from the DG Santé in the old days, that they opened up this term, and pancreatic cancer was number 1 and ovarian cancer number 2. So turning now to the politicians, I think we rattled the cage quite a lot now. So I would very much like to learn what you think about what you have heard so far. And maybe we start with you, Ondřej Dostál, and then go over to Etienne Abela. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm slightly sorry for not being completely healthy. But anyway, it was a great opportunity for hearing the patient stories and also thinking what can be done from the systemic part point of view. I'm a member of parliament for half a year, but I was working for 20 years as a patient rights advocate. I'm a lawyer by education, but I was working a lot with both patient groups and doctors on shaping the patient rights and also the system of health in Czech Republic. Let me say a few insights which might or might not be relevant for our discussion. First of all, the big change in my country was turned to greater patient autonomy, which can help in the treatment process, can help the patient to get early enough for diagnostics and for treatment. This, however, requires a timely access to information on diseases, on treatment possibilities, something which is truthful, which is free of disinformation, but on the other hand, which is accessible to everyone, not only to the educated patients. Of course, such patient can also help both himself or herself and the society by sharing the data, and here the EU projects on digital health can help us and the researchers a lot to gain trust of people, to share their very sensitive information. We need to keep confidentiality, so the people would be sure that if they share their health information, it would not be used against them in their work or family life or society, which is a very common fear. But the biggest role is on the organizers of the systems. I'm a big proponent of public systems of health, mainly because they can integrate the care about all the people who need it, not only those able to pay. This means to have a system of healthcare facilities starting from primary care, which is accessible to everyone. This sounds like something normal, but unfortunately it is not. In my country, Czech Republic, of 10 million people, more than 100,000 people do not have a registering doctor, a registering general practitioner, which means that if a person comes up with symptoms, the person has nowhere to go. There is no person, no doctor who would do even the basic oncologic prevention, which is theoretically a duty of primary care doctors in my country. But if they are missing, it's not happening. And the doctor should send a person to a specialist, which also is an entitlement in my country, but of course it doesn't take place. So taking a look at the healthcare as a system is necessary, and this is something we should support also from the EU level. Another point is like upholding the patient rights in real life. So when the person is diagnosed, that the surgery or access to pharmacological treatment is timely. In many countries, it takes several months, sometimes over a year, to get a cancer patient to treatment, which is terrible. But it happens, and nobody cares about this enough. It is necessary to support the families. If the person is already ill, it is the caretakers are often his closest persons, and they need to fight for the patient to get to timely treatment. So what can we do to help this? Of course, we politicians cannot supplant the researchers, we cannot supplant the doctors, but what we are good for, we can at least support the functioning of the public system as a whole, as a system, and also support patient groups. Why patient groups? Because these are most typically the ones who help the general public with access to information, with awareness about diseases, especially these deadly diseases, and they can also provide the necessary level of advocacy within the system for the patient, which the system sometimes doesn't provide from the official part. So these are my inputs. Let's hope for everyone that the situation in healthcare will improve. It will necessitate investments, monetary investments. For this, we need to build a prosperous Europe, because if we don't have prosperity, we don't have taxes. If we don't have taxes, we don't have functioning healthcare. But within the healthcare, I hope such meetings like this will help us to achieve at least some progress. Thank you very much.
Now, this is the second member of the parliament who already mentioned the patient perspective, making the participation of PCE and you as patients really pivotal here. I mean, I believe you know your role, but this is really where the push and the show must come from, so to say. All right, we have another member of member of parliament and Minister of Malta for Health and Active Aging, and also pancreatic surgeon, as I've learned. Please.
If I may, I'll start my comments as a doctor first. Can I?
Please.
So, as a doctor, I think, our research efforts, we need to make sure that we're speaking the same language. There are several types of pancreatic tumors. So, for example, we said that younger people can be affected by pancreatic tumors. Here, what comes to mind are the pseudopapillary tumors, which are fairly uncommon, but they're fairly indolent. But if they grow big enough, then they will cause problems. These are entirely different to ductal carcinoma, of course. And one should consider the neuroendocrine tumors. And at least in my country, we're seeing a profusion of those, whether it's because we're doing CT scans and MRIs to every other person that presents to us. And I'm not saying that bad, it's good. But we're getting a lot of pancreatic tumors that are incidentalomas, really. So, when we are talking about research, but even clinical treatment, we need to make sure we're talking about, the type of tumor that we want to talk about, as it were. And that brings me to early detection, of course. So early detection, I mentioned MRI before. Population screening with MRI, as we mentioned before, doesn't help. But if we had to concentrate our efforts and our money into special populations, then I am almost sure that will make a difference. And again, here I'm mostly talking about IPMNs and the small neuroendocrine tumors. But now let's talk about politics now. So, and I think, although I've only been a politician for 3 years, I think that what we're lacking in Europe is we're different from the United States. In the United States, you have 3 big centers that concentrate on research. In Europe, the UK is doing that, Bulgaria is doing this, Malta is doing that, Germany, we need to concentrate our efforts. So if you want to excite me as a politician, convince me that you can do this in a rational way. Concentrate the effort. And then I'll give you more money. So what am I saying here? We need a few centers in Europe that concentrate. Is it too long? Sorry.
No.
So what we need is, at European level, we need to decide. These are the centers that are going to, push forward cancer research, and one of them will concentrate on pancreatic surgery. That is how I will give you more money as a politician. And, you need to excite a politician with, something fantastical. What would be fantastic for me? Convince me that you can develop a vaccine for pancreatic cancer. Now that will, there's legacy there. So as a politician, you have really enticed me now. So surgery, medicine and politics are extremely different. But there are some points that excite a surgeon, some points that excite a politician. I think here we're talking more about politics, and politics, as I said, try to convince the politician that you can achieve your goal. So concentrate effort. 1, will give more money. Number 2, something, groundbreaking, a vaccine. It's difficult because pancreatic cancer, I know it's cell poor and this and that, but, can it be achieved? Can you convince a politician that it can be achieved? Because I'm sure if you do that, no politician would be stingy with that. And the third thing that a politician would really, like is, it's very sexy to talk about digitalization and artificial intelligence and that. And as I said before, we're doing the same operation for 100 years, well, almost. And so surgery, I don't see that we can do more there. But if we can somehow combine the genomics, the new novel chemotherapy agents, which will be a problem in the EU because not every European citizen has equal access to these novel medications. You might have access to an operation, but the novel medications, then we're talking a different ballgame. So that's something for the Commission to sort out. But I think the future is a distillate of genomics, of various risk factors, reading, because tumors are different. Even pancreatic cancer, why do I operate a stage 1 cancer and the person lives 4 years? I do the same operation, give the same chemotherapy, the similar stage, and you get metastatic disease in 4 months. So we have been talking about pancreatic cancer for yonks, but really and truly, we don't know that much about it. And I think here is where artificial intelligence should come in and tell us what our little brains cannot. So bring everything together, and then we can talk about personalized care. So I think this is what would make politicians take vaccines, artificial intelligence, and personalized care, and most importantly, concentrate effort. Do not disperse the effort, concentrate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to enlighten you a little bit, by chance, 3 of the 8 centers in Europe constituting Cancer Core Europe are on this table. Spain, Valdebrón, Karolinska Institute, and Heidelberg. So we are concentrating these efforts, and it was really, of my former boss, Harald Zuhausen, one of the things he really pushed, and I was with him 20 years ago for the first time in this building to lobby for cancer in Europe. And with regard to the vaccine, you want to comment on the biotech vaccination study, maybe?
I think that was the RNA vaccination is really one of the groundbreaking achievements, which now has been published on 16 patients, but of course has to be proven really in a ground phase 3 trial. And I totally agree with you that we need concerted efforts, integrating several specialties, AI, novel technologies. But of course, I think the experience of the last decades has taught us, I think, that it's not only the big promises, but it's also the gradual small steps which eventually make the difference. And that, I think, we have to transfer to politics as well.
Okay, so finally, lastly not lately, I'm calling on Alfredo Carrato, who is here now representing PCE, but also one of the leading oncologists in Europe. Please, Alfredo.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, Matthias, Klaus. I am a medical oncologist, and I'm also the chairperson of Pancreatic Cancer Europe. And I am going to talk in a lay language for being understood for everybody. So when I act as a medical doctor, when I am in my daily practice, and 10 patients with pancreatic cancer from my hospital come to my practice, I know that 5 of them are going to be metastatic. So they have no chance of cure. The other half, 20-25%, will be locally advanced, which means that the tumor has invaded the major vessels, the arteries, and cannot be resected. And the other 30% is a mixture of patients that are resectable by surgery and borderline resectable, which are tumors that are touching the vessel and may be candidates for a surgical approach. So at the end, I realized that we have no early diagnosis, because most of the patients that come to my practice are advanced. They have no chance of cure. The locally advanced can be rescued in a small percentage, or on the borderline also. And from the 30% that go to the surgical room, 2/3 of them will recur. So we are curing only 10% of the patients, 1 out of 10. So this makes me think that there's an unmet need in early diagnosis, and I am I do agree with Patrick when he says that a combination of all the omics, including microbiomics, the microbiota is an expression of the environment. And we could detect, as it has been published by Núria Malats, a signature for pancreatic cancer in the feces of the patients. We could identify also the precancer lesions in the feces of the patients, like panning with high-grade dysplasia, or panning or IPMN with high-grade dysplasia, or panning 3. So it's a network of researchers who will give the chance of identifying these precursor lesions for the benefit of the outcome of our persons that are diagnosed with these early or nascent pancreatic cancer lesions. And the second thing is frustrating. My armamentarium to fight this cancer is just chemotherapy. I do not have targeted agents. Immune therapy does not work. I don't have monoclonal antibodies with chemotherapy attached to target them. There's small trial with a vaccine against RAS that is promising, but just in a small percentage of patients, a small amount of patients. So we are desperate, lack of resources, of investigational resources. We have no research to offer our patients to improve their outcomes. And if you see the NCCN guidelines, which are the most popular ones from North America, the first option for any patient of pancreatic cancer in any situation is a clinical trial, because we are not going to cure them with chemotherapy, just 1 out of 10. So a clinical trial will be ideal to go ahead and try to know more about the biology of this deadly disease. Why some of my patients do survive 3 months and another ones survive 4 years? Because they are completely different kinds of pancreatic cancer. We know in breast cancer that there is HER2 positive, triple negative, estrogen receptor positive, etc., etc., and there is a specific treatment for each of these situations. But there is no specific treatment, personalized treatment for pancreatic cancer. You treat the patients depending on their performance status. If they are strong enough, you treat them with chemotherapy more aggressively, and if they are fragile, you treat them with a more light chemotherapy approach. But that's nothing. This is the way we treated patients in the 70s. In the 1970s, this was what we could offer all our patients: colon cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer. And now, breast cancer, lung cancer, colon cancer have targeted therapies, immune therapies, different approaches that pancreatic cancer lacks. So this unmet need of more research in pancreas cancer, which is becoming the second cause of cancer death in Europe in a few years, is a must. And we have to convince our politicians that there is only one way: working together in a network. Pancreatic Cancer Europe has a network of pancreatic cancer registries to know what's going on in Europe, to learn from others, to advance in the knowledge of the biology of the disease, and awareness. Awareness is fundamental. Awareness to the population, because everybody should know that pancreas cancer would be the second cause of death by cancer in 5 years. So you have to know about that. And you have to know the signs, the symptoms, the risk factors, etc., as well as you probably know the risks of other more curable cancers. So this is my perception, and I will continue fighting against this deadly disease. Frustrated also because the European Union last call has only funded just small amount of projects in pancreas cancer. We don't know why. Very good, excellent projects have been not found, and the patients are waiting for that. So let's be in the same way, let's behave romantic, let's fight against this deadly disease, this hard bone to row, and let's go further for the benefit of our patients. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfredo. I think we can turn around this and motivate our politicians, our representatives here in the parliament, to really answer the question which will be asked to them in 5 years. When pancreatic cancer is becoming the number 2 of cancer-related death, what have you done in the last 5 or 10 years? Because these figures are out now for 10 years. It was projected that pancreatic cancer is overtaking breast cancer. This has happened as projected in the year 2017 to become number 3, and again 2030 it will become number 2. A very quick answer, please.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that for the Commission, the cancers to concentrate upon right now are lung, prostate, and stomach. And I was very surprised about stomach. In Malta, we changed it. It's lung, prostate, and pancreas. But after all, we're very small, so nobody will. Sometimes they don't listen to us enough.
Yeah, I mean, stomach is one of the poor prognosis cancers, not neglected. And again, I mean, maybe this is why we miss the late John F. Ryan, who was very much supporting us for pancreatic cancer at the Commission. All right, we are ahead of schedule quite a lot. Thank you very much, everybody on this panel now. And we are coming now to the last part of this afternoon, which is the eminent Núria Malats from the National Cancer Institute in Spain, CNIO, Madrid, talking about the networking.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's a privilege being here to talk to you. I'm MD, PhD. I'm a partner of PANCAID and a board member of PC, and I'm working on pancreatic cancer research for the last little bit more of 30 years. So I'm not going to quantify how many, but it means that I'm very aware of the importance of networking for pancreas cancer research. And this is very much needed. I'm gonna tell you. So this is very much needed. And what I want is to start to showing you this slide that I used to present to go through the facts of pancreatic cancer. Many of them have been already presented here. So pancreatic cancer survival, median, and this slide was used 10 years ago, more or less, or a little bit less. But from here, what I have to say, and I'm happy to say that median survival and 5-year survival have improved a little bit, as you have seen from Ali's slide. However, mortality is increasing, and this is because incidence is increasing. So it was the fourth in the last 5 years, but now is the third in Europe, and it will become the second, as Matthias has mentioned. It will become soon. So there's other facts that are very important. For example, the large percentage of European citizens that they are not aware of pancreatic cancer, the symptoms, the etiology, how to identify them. So we don't know whether this has been decreased upon all the campaigns of awareness that have been done locally and internationally, because they have been very important. And but what I wanted to highlight here is the very small funding that pancreatic cancer projects here in Europe have received. As I said, this was 10 years ago, so I thought that after all of these campaigns, we would have this percentage increase. But actually, yes, I was even more depressed than Alfredo when I saw yesterday, actually, that still we are in this 2% in the last calls of European Commission funding projects. So I don't know why. What's the reason of that? Actually, this was already denounced by Pavel Poch, who was a former MEP here. He already mentioned that pancreatic cancer should be funded better, but we are still in this 2%. So pancreatic cancer still continues to be a neglected cancer for the European, for the funding agencies at the European and also North America and local agencies, funding agencies. Why is that? Why we are not able to increase the awareness among the health policy makers? So this is a question that we should address and trying to reverse this scenario. So, and this is what within Pancreatic Cancer Europe, we want to prioritize actually research, to promote research, and in order to make better policies for research in Europe is one of our aim. And in order to address that, we organize and we structure different actions. Among them to participate in European projects, for example, PANCAID or CERN, and this is a result. This meeting is a result of the PCE and PANCAID collaboration. That it's super nice and very important. PCE also participate in the European guidelines for pancreatic cancer research. But it's not only that. We also prioritize to build, and we launched 1 year and a half what we call the PCE map. This is pancreatic cancer research groups in Europe. This is a directorate to provide a real dynamic and detailed picture of pancreatic cancer research in Europe according to the geographical setting, type of research, and also resources that these groups have. So from this 1 year and a half that it was launched, 75 research teams have already uploaded the data. There's around 650 researchers that were actually mentioned in these groups from 14 countries. And here you have the type of research that these groups have mentioned and the resources that they also have described. So among them, you can see that there's 51 biobank. So the resources that we have in Europe are huge, and these should base and support important projects and actually they do if the projects are funded properly. So the objectives of this PC map is to increase the visualization of the European research teams and the international scenario to promote collaborations among scientists both in Europe and abroad, to foster training of young researchers, to serve the European scientific policymakers as a heat map to identify deficiencies in research in Europe, and also to provide the patients and the general population of information on pancreatic cancer projects. So we think that this is an important initiative that can help, is a tool for many stakeholders in Europe. So another important action is the brainstormings meetings that we are organizing in PCE, and one of them, it was held in Madrid in 2023. It was on pancreatic cancer research to identify the priorities in research on pancreatic cancer. So 36 participants were attending from 11 countries, and they were from different disciplines, and also healthcare professionals, patients, advocates, funding agencies, and industry also participated. Some of you know about that, and you participated in this initiative. So the aims were to identify the main issues to need to be addressed in pancreatic cancer research in Europe, and to provide a list of prioritized actions to the European Commission, national health research programs, scientific societies, and cancer funding agencies. Okay, and this is available, and you can be provided with that. So the conclusions of this important meeting was to invest in primary prevention and early detection of pancreatic cancer. This is where PANCAID is, and we are here for that. Understand pancreatic cancer mechanisms, and to use preclinical models to accelerate clinical trial designs, enhance excellence in clinical research, and increase pancreatic cancer awareness for higher funding. And this is also the objective of this meeting. So again, if you are interested in that, you will be provided with this document. There's other actions. Among them is the network of registries on pancreatic cancer. We call it Pancreas, that Alfredo mentioned. And we also award early career investigators that can perform shorter stages in different countries to promote collaborations and networking. I just want to finish this talk by mentioning you about Joan Guinovart. He's a colleague. He was a colleague and a friend of mine. He was a very renowned researcher and also health. The director of the General Science Park in Barcelona, a visionary person. He was diagnosed of pancreatic cancer last year. He has just died, and 1 month before dying, he provided us with me and the Alliance for Pancreatic Cancer in Spain with a letter saying that what I highlighted here. This time I speak from the dual perspective of both the researcher and the patient. It's essential to attract more financial and human resources to combat this disease. And very importantly, he said that the timelines for translational research must be expedited to shorten the duration between basic discoveries and for their clinical applications. And in this regard, any bureaucratic obstacle become a limiting factor. He was very concerned about that because he was not able to receive inhibitors of KRAS because of this issue of bureaucratic problems. So he said every effort should be made to optimize the transfer process, and here national and European health authorities play a crucial role. So I invite you all, politicians, researchers, and all the stakeholders to join efforts and to fight against this cancer from the different dimensions and to finally progress in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I hand over to Klaus for the concluding remarks, one really has to be very bold here now at the end of this. We are not talking about, a chronic disease, as some oncologists now coin breast cancer or colorectal cancer. Compare this to diabetes mellitus, we are talking about a disease where, as said, 10% can be cured or have a long-term survival, and 90% really die rather short, leaving not so many behind who can advocate, like the 3 patients you have listened to today. So this is really, making a point here for our politicians to change that together with us, and particularly with the patients. So, Klaus.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank all the speakers, all the participants in the discussions for their very valuable contributions. I learned a lot today. I think it was really very, very interesting and stimulating. And I think, let me use this word stimulating. We have to stimulate also the research community. We have to stimulate, of course, the politicians. We have to stimulate the people that decide about funds. But I guess that, of course, for me, most of the stimulation I get are really from you, from the patients. You hear the patient stories, really. That is really making it visible. What kind of problem do we have here? It's not an academic problem. It's not a discussion about resources, whether we buy the blue or the green or the yellow milk tomorrow. I mean, it's about a killing disease with an increasing incidence. So I think we have to make people aware that if you do not want to fund pancreatic cancer, you will accept the death of a substantial number of people, and it could be yourself. And I think that human beings, are, I think, prone to this, to understand that, okay, one day I could become a patient and I don't want to get the chemotherapy, which is 60 years old, right? And I don't want to be detected with a very advanced tumor that cannot be cured or cannot be even taken out by surgery. And we have to make that really, I would say, visible in easy terms to the public, right? And you're right. I mean, unfortunately, there are not so many of the patient survivors, but I think we have to make that visible to the public, that is a real threat. And I think all of us know still the COVID time and what we have done in the different countries to get a vaccination quickly, and then everything was done quickly, which now again takes years and years. And just one example, when we want to exchange data and blood samples in our consortium, and that's true for the whole cluster, we are not talking about PANCAID, okay? It takes more than a year to have all the material transfer agreements between 20 different institutions. You can imagine, 20 different institutions, 20 different lawyers. I mean, everybody who has ever dealt with contracts know it will take forever, right? So we have to do something really to reduce this bureaucracy, reduce this, identify where are the bottlenecks, and then really go for that. And we have the right technologies now. We have from 17 different countries here at this consortium. We have the support from the European Union, which I think is fantastic. I must really say I'm a real friend of the European Union, not just because I'm sitting here, because I really believe that if we concentrate our efforts from the different member states and not just do everything again and again and again, this is a big, big success. And we are more than 500 million people here. So, I mean, we are able to do that. So let's bring this optimism, and bring this awareness really to all the groups that are involved in the policy making. And I personally definitely think if I wake up in the morning and I have to make an important decision about pancreatic cancer, and I'm told, well, we can only detect it when it's too late and there's also no therapy. I mean, if it's so clear in my head, I would say I will think twice whether I will reject a pancreatic cancer grant or action. So let's work together on that, and thank you very much, also Matthias, for the wonderful, help here to make these 2 hours, I would say, a very positive event. And I personally felt, to me, it was super positive. And also, again, thank you to
Ioannis, for this wonderful support over the last 2 years, and also your enthusiasm about the European idea. Thank you.